lập對應去永受來自。
Hello and welcome to Hollywood at Home from Arizona Public Media. I'm Victoria Lucas. Tonight's movie is MGM's 1952 classic, Singin' in the Rain, one of the best loved and celebrated musicals of all time. Gene Kelly stars as a famous silent film actor in this joyously lighthearted story of Hollywood in the late 1920s, just as the movies were making the transition from silent films to talkies. Co-starring with Kelly is an all-star cast, including the acrobatic Donald O'Connor, Jean Hagen as the blonde bombshell with a voice like fingernails on a blackboard, and 19-year-old Debbie Reynolds as a sweet-natured chorus girl in her first major role. Not only is Kelly the star of the film, he also co-directed with Stanley Donen and choreographed all the dance numbers, with the soon-to-be great Gwen Verdon as his uncredited assistant. Kelly has a great time poking fun at himself as a swashbuckling matinee idol, and the movie is chock full of musical highlights. Not only the famous title number, but also Donald O'Connor's brilliant Make 'em Laugh tribute to vaudeville, and the spectacular Broadway melody ballet with guest star Sid Charisse. Taken all together, the film epitomizes everything that made MGM musicals so entertaining, so famous, and so long-lived. Singin' in the Rain producer Arthur Freed had long been responsible for some of MGM's most popular musicals, including An American in Paris the previous year, which took home the Oscar for Best Picture. But before becoming a producer, Freed had been a prolific composer and songwriter, and he had an idea. Why not take some of his existing songs, many of them written decades earlier, and create a story around them to make into another MGM musical? He called in the screenwriting team of Betty Comden and Adolph Green, who had written hits like The Barclays of Broadway and On the Town, to come up with a plot. Comden later joked, "Arthur gave us a huge stack of about 100 songs and said, 'Go write a movie.'" Well, okay then, but Comden and Green were stumped at first. As Comden remembered, we had to create a whole new story with characters and situations that would fit the already existing songs. It's like working backwards. Green laughed. All we knew was that at some point in the film, someone would be out in the rain and singing about it. Eventually, Comden and Green realized that the story would work best if it were set in the same time period as when the songs had been written, the Roaring Twenties. And with that epiphany, the script quickly came together so that sets could be designed and built and choreography could begin. You know, those amazingly acrobatic dance numbers may look easy, but that's because of weeks of rehearsal, followed by long, difficult days of filming, went into each one. The Singin' in the Rain number, which appears so effortless and elegant, took many days, a big crew, a ton of equipment, and a huge set to create. Rather than build the street set from scratch indoors on a soundstage and then have to deal with draining all that water, the production decided to shoot on MGM's back lot, where there was already an urban street set. First, they installed overhead pipes and sprinklers running 2 city blocks. And then because it's a night scene that would be shot during the day, because it was summer and nights weren't long enough, they strung cables between the rooftops on opposite sides of the street and laid huge black tarps across the cables, draping them down at each end to create a gigantic, dark, tinted tunnel. Now, lighting the scene was no picnic either. You photography buffs know that raindrops are more visible when they're backlit, meaning the light is pointing more or less toward the camera. But at the same time, you want to be able to see the actor's face, so he needs to be front lit. Well, that means a lot of lights, most of them big and hot in those days, with plenty of opportunities for their reflections to be caught in storefront windows whenever the camera changes angles. This took a lot of time in what quickly became a very stuffy 2 blocks. Not the best atmosphere for a dancer performing an energetic number. But all the cost and effort was worth it, as Singin' in the Rain has gone down as one of the most iconic sequences in musical film history. Ironically, Gene Kelly always said afterwards that it was one of the easiest numbers in the film for him, though he quickly added, the real work for this one was done by the technicians and the poor cameraman who had to shoot through all that water. All I had to do was dance. The delightful make 'em laugh sequence wasn't in the original script, but director Gene Kelly felt that Donald O'Connor deserved a solo number. So they brainstormed together and came up with old gags and shtick that O'Connor had done back in his vaudeville days. But one trick, in which he runs up a wall and somersaults off it, was years in his past, and he was now a 4-pack-a-day smoker who was no longer in, shall we say, prime physical condition. Still, he was game, and he made it work, though it proved to be so strenuous that he went to bed for a week afterwards, suffering from exhaustion and painful carpet burns. And then there was 19-year-old Debbie Reynolds, who was cast in the film by studio chief Louis B. Mayer, despite Kelly's initial objections because of her lack of dance experience and the lack of time to train her. But Reynolds was more than a pretty young face. She was a natural athlete and a very hard worker who buckled down and rehearsed day and night so she could share a dance floor with Kelly and Donald O'Connor. Yet, even after proving herself, nothing came easily once filming began. For instance, the Good Morning song and dance began shooting at 8 o'clock one morning, and the company didn't wrap until 11 o'clock that night, by which time Reynolds was a physical wreck. She later admitted, my feet were bleeding and I just couldn't move. In fact, she added with a smile, the 2 hardest things I have ever done in life were childbirth and making Singin' in the Rain. Tired bodies aside, it is easy to sense the joy that everyone involved felt in making this movie about making movies. So please sit back. Don't forget to keep your umbrella handy and enjoy the musical that epitomizes everything exciting about the genre. From 1952, it's MGM's classic, Singin' in the Rain. Now that's entertainment.